Good evening. Glad to see you tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm Pastor Pete McNabb, and I'm not at the usual place, not at my office. Instead, you might say I'm at my office that's in our far west campus that's over in Irving, where I'm at First United Methodist Church Irving's, or I might say Terrell's West Campus, my old house in Irving, with my daughter-in-law, Sarah, my son, Austin, and we've got Graham over there with our new baby, Alice Jean. She's 5 weeks old now, so we're delighted to have her. I'm going to flip this around so you guys can see the baby, because I think that's what everybody wants to see first. This is Alice. We are so glad to have Alice in our life. Hi, Alice. You are now officially on. You can go and wave. It's okay. You're now officially on video on our Thursday night, Thursday night Bible study. It's great to see you. Thank you for being part of this and everything. So you're here. Just say hello to everybody. Alice is 5 weeks old. This is Graham. She's really happy to be here too and everything. And over here, we've got Sarah and Austin. So it's really fitting that we have you guys here tonight, because it's part of our Bible study that we're doing called Facing Anxiety. So anything anxious about being a new mom and dad? No. Not one bit. Okay, well, we just wanted to say hello and thank y'all for letting us be in your home tonight to broadcast from. So if you guys want to ask any questions to Austin or Sarah while you're on tonight, just to say hello to them or anything about what it means to be a new parent, any advice for that, we'd love to have it. So we've got Austin and Sarah, and we've got Alice, Jean, and Daria here is Graham. And we're going to be watching a video tonight. I'll go ahead and flip back over here to me. We're going to be watching a video tonight of, it's called Facing Anxiety, and it's featuring Jonathan Pokluda, who used to be one of the pastors at Watermark Church in Dallas. Now he's senior pastor or lead pastor at Harris Creek in outside of Waco, and just doing amazing work. And particularly in these times when we're looking at how people are going to deal with the COVID-19 crises, economic challenges they're facing, quite often job losses, concerns about unemployment, a number of things taking place, and you have to ask the question, how do you deal with the anxiety of these things? An interesting thing is that Austin and Sarah here are about to start not only being, of course, their parents, but also dealing with going back to school, where they're both educators and they're working with school districts. And so there's work to be done in preparation for health and safety for people. So there's a lot of things that are on their minds. So we'll talk to them in a little bit. We'll have this video with we call him JP, Jonathan Pokluda, and it's something that I hope you'll take the time to tune into and pay attention. We'll be spending 4 weeks with JP studying this particular topic. So because you could be, no matter what, facing some kind of anxiety. We want you to know that there are pathways and there are things that you can do. So, Sarah, if you would start the video.
I'm Jonathan Pokluda, and I want to welcome you to this series on anxiety and peace. I'm so excited about this series because we're going to be talking about how anxiety has played a role in so many of our daily lives and how it can keep us away from God. That's my story. For a long time, I was running at a fast pace, continued to add the daily challenges of work onto my life and pursued God, and felt all the have-tos, you have to do this and you have to do that, and it felt like I ran 100 miles an hour into a brick wall. One day I was at a speaking engagement in California, and I was lying in my hotel room bed, and I was all of a sudden I didn't feel right. My heart was beating funny. In fact, it would beat in a way that would shake my whole body, and I knew that something was wrong. I knew that I desperately needed sleep, but I couldn't sleep. The thoughts and the worries of this world were running around my mind, and I couldn't find rest. I went ahead with that speaking engagement. I flew back to my home, and I went straight to the emergency room. And I remember standing in front of the doctor saying, "What's wrong with me?" And they said, "Well, you have some irregular heartbeats." I looked at the doctor and I said, "Well, can you fix it?" And they said, "No, but you can." It's like, "What do you mean I can?" I said, "Well, you need to slow down. This is caused by stress. It's caused by anxiety. It's caused by worry. You're carrying too much." And so I'm so passionate about this series, and I want you to know that if you're out there and you struggle, you're not alone. In this series, I want to build our confidence in the peace that God offers, but also make us aware of the physical and medical dangers that anxiety can cause. We're going to use God's word to see God's perspective on how and why anxiety plagues our society. We're going to talk about anxiety's tendencies to rob us of our peace of mind and keep us from the physical and spiritual rest that Jesus offers us. We'll also hear stories from people with jobs and children, friends, and busy schedules just like many of us, and see how their Christian faith informs their battle with anxiety. But before we dive in, I want to highlight something really important about anxiety. I'm coming at this issue from a pastoral standpoint. I'm not a licensed counselor or therapist. I know that sometimes we need professional medical help with our anxiety. And I don't want you to think that this series is ignoring that reality. If that's you today, please get help if you haven't already. And know that there is no shame in seeking help. For me, that was something that I had to do. At first I talked to my community, I talked to my pastor, and eventually I went to counseling. And I pursued professional help. And that was something that God used in my life. God has placed professional counselors and therapists in our lives to help heal us. So let's get started and watch God's power confront anxiety and bring comfort to us as His people. My prayer is that God would transform the way you think about anxiety, that He would move in gracious ways to bring about healing, restoration, and peace in your life. As we begin, listen to Anthony's story. Anthony shows us how people-pleasing and unrealistic expectations for ourselves can lead us down a path towards anxiousness. Watch this.
So one of the things I've learned is being an artist, you have a lot of people you need to please. Earlier on, I was just pleasing people. My goal was to make people feel like I was the best. I'm greater than everybody. Even as, I'm a Christian, I love the Lord, love Jesus, and I am serving His purpose in what I do. But as I serve His purpose in what I do, oftentimes it becomes about me. It becomes about my hustle. I'm big on work, hustle, hustle, hustle. And because I'm like that, I often fall into the place of feeling like I'm a superhero. I end up taking what should be God's and putting it on myself. And I start not getting sleep. I start overworking. I start not prioritizing my time because I feel like it's my job to do it all. And I remember after I put out this album, how it was, in my opinion, it had better beats and it had better rapping. I remember the emptiness. And I was like, what is this feeling that I'm feeling that doesn't feel right? And I realized in that moment that I was trying to be somebody I wasn't. I was trying to please people. I was trying to please everybody by proving I was great. I was proving I was this. But internally, I knew something was wrong. And so what I came to the point was I went to talk to a pastor and I shared my heart. And I was like, man, I just feel like something's wrong. And I remember this pastor, he told me, he said, he was the first person I ever heard say this. He said, sometimes we need help to figure out what we need to pray for. And he was like, and that help can come from a counselor. And from that moment, I ended up going to a counselor. And I remember in the first 2 sessions, he changed my life, with the stuff that he told me. Because once he was able to help me start pinpointing what it was, I was instantly able to go to my prayer closet and be like, Lord, this is what I need. But he also helped me understand that this is not going to be something that happens overnight. And I realized in the middle of that I had a decision that I had to decide. It's either God's peace or my pride. I had to let go of being validated all the time. And I believe validation An affirmation, it is a false drug for anxiety. And so as I made that transition and I said, I'm going to be who God's called me to be, I'm going to be content in the Lord, in what I'm doing, it was like all this fear and all this, it literally just, it seeped away, you know? And as I've continued to be a creative, it always is there, because you're always having to say, okay, I got to pull back and be who I'm supposed to be. I have to lean on the Lord for the rest of my life.
Well, you may not be in the music industry, but I'm sure you can relate to some of Anthony's story. He was carrying so much weight and pressure, and eventually talked to a pastor and got help through counseling, and was able to move to a place where he realized that this movie, this story, this life that he exists in is not all about him. I think for so many of us, that's the mistake that we make, is we go through this world trying to make it all about us. In fact, I think this is foundational to the highest levels of anxiety and the highest levels of panic attacks that we've ever seen in the world. I think we're trying to make too much of ourselves. We're trying to receive too much glory for us. This glory, it must be offloaded onto the sturdy shelf of Jesus Christ. We see this in the Gospels. As you turn Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, there's a question that the disciples, the followers of Jesus, asked repeatedly. They would say, Jesus, which of us is the greatest? Which of us can sit at your right and your left in your glory? It continues to say that they argued about this. In fact, I love how Jesus addresses this in Mark chapter 10. He says, you don't understand what greatness is. Whoever wants to be great among you must be a servant. And whoever wants to be the greatest must be slave of all. And in verse 45, he says, for even I didn't come to be served. And this is Christ. He's the ruler of the world. He says, I didn't come here to be served, but I came here to serve and to give my life as a ransom for many. That true greatness is actually found in loving and serving others. I think the faster we can realize this, the faster we can begin to experience relief from our own anxiety. The quicker we can give our lives away, not under the pressures of trying to get something from others, but just to be a conduit of God's grace to others, and to see our lives as that, the faster or the sooner, the quicker we experience healing. This life was not meant for us to receive as much glory as we possibly can. I was in a movie once. It's interesting. A friend of mine was actually filming a movie and asked if I would like to play a role, in this film. And it was going to be shown in the theaters and everything. And I went to where they were filming, and we shot this quick scene. And then I went to see the movie in the theaters, and I was on the screen for about 15 seconds. I just had this tiny, tiny cameo role. And it would be crazy for me to go and tell everyone, hey, did you see that movie that I starred in? Did you see that movie that was all about me? And yet so many of us, we think about life this way. We walk into a room and wonder what everybody is saying about us, what everybody's thinking about us. We're counting likes and followers and wondering how great we can actually be. Meanwhile, our anxiety is going through the roof and we don't know why. It's because you weren't meant to be great like that. Jesus, when he was here, he redefined greatness, and for us to pursue greatness, we must pursue it as he's intended, which is service. This life's not about you. This life's not about me. From beginning to end, it is all about King Jesus. To understand this better, I want you to hear Genesis' story and how she realized that she was putting too much pressure on herself in her work and in her environments and trying to receive greatness until she was able to come to a similar conclusion. Watch this.
After graduating and was able to get a job in my career field in New York City, the city where I wanted to be, and then I told my family, this is what I'm gonna do. We're gonna do this job in this great city, and this is what it's going to be. So I start working, and I'm like, I am here, I've made it, I'm in my field, this is awesome. As I kept going, I think my subconscious was like, you don't like it. This is not what you want to do, which caused me to have slip-ups and mess-ups. And I had painted this picture for myself of what it was supposed to be, and it wasn't adding up to that picture. I wasn't excelling at this job that I thought I wanted. I wasn't, blowing it out of the water. Knowing that everyone back home was rooting for me to be successful at this job and climb the ladder. I didn't want this to be the moment that I let them down. Work was kind of spiraling quickly out of control, and I was just so in my head about trying to make everything work and not, letting anyone in. I couldn't talk to anyone. Conversations were tough. I really just can't go too much further past trying to keep up appearances in a way. In that time frame, I just had even more weight on me, and it just didn't come to fruition of me living up to, of me doing what I needed to do. And the next review period came, and I got laid off. After getting laid off, I just kind of felt like I wouldn't be who they thought I was. I felt in a sense, a failure. That I was well, if I think this about me, that clearly has to be what they're going to think, when I go to them with this. And so I kept it to myself, but then I got to a point where, I couldn't do that anymore because I didn't want to keep being sad and being weighed down, just my whole situation. One day I was, talking to my mom. I finally, just had to say, it didn't work, and here I am, and I no longer have a job, and in that moment, she was more just concerned about me and how I was, and it just kind of reaffirmed for me, I wasn't that job, and I wasn't that position, and I wasn't, my status at that time. As more people found out, I realized that I was holding on to this idea of having to be this perfect, polished person, in everyone's eyes, even in God's eyes. I think that was when I realized they weren't expecting me to be anything that I had been putting on.
Well, that story from Genesis reminds us of the pressures that the world can put on us as we continue to work and we continue to seek the affirmation from other people. And as they affirm us and tell us that we're doing a good job, often the temptation for us is to continue to run faster and try harder and to do more, all while pretending to have peace. And what we don't realize is when the pressures of the world comes on our shoulders, what it's going to do is crush us. And the solution is not to continue to pretend to have peace, but to actually reach out for help from others, from those in our communities, pastors, counselors, people in our life. Say, hey, I'm carrying more than I can handle right now, or I'm running at a pace that's not sustainable for me. And a lot of times the solution or the resolution to our panic and to our worry and to our anxiety comes from us reaching out for help. You weren't meant to sustain it all. Even science teaches us this. Science, for a long time, scientists believed that the Earth was at the center of our solar system, that all of the planets revolved around the Earth. This was called the geocentric theory. Nicholas Copernicus shows up on the scene and he says, no, all of the solar system actually revolves around the sun. And he founded the heliocentric theory, that the sun is at the center of our solar system. When we try to live our lives like we are at the center of our universe, it's like we believe in a meocentric theory. You're not at the center of it all. No, we have to put Christ at the center of everything. Only with Jesus at the middle can everything be sustained. This is a Christocentric belief, that Jesus is at the center of everything, that he holds all things together. And so the solution for us is not to run faster, it's not to do more, it's not to try harder, it's to acknowledge that Jesus is at the center. And for you and me, something practically we can do is just reach out for help. So as we wrap up session one, what I want to encourage you to do is audit your life. How much is on your plate? How fast are you running? Are you trying to pretend to have peace when you really don't? when you're struggling in this season. If you're struggling in this season, I want you to reach out for help. As you discuss in your small groups, I want you to talk about, hey, how are you doing right now? And ask for prayer from others. Thank you for listening to Session 1.
All right. It's great to see you guys. Thanks for being part of this. I see a lot of my friends that are online. It's good to be here. I'm just going to squeeze over here next to Austin and Sarah and visit with our small group tonight. And we'll just kind of, you guys can all see them. Austin and Sarah there. Cool. Could you get that light? A little more light would be really good, that sort of thing. So we kind of share that. So again, we're in Irving tonight instead of in Terrell. And I'm here with my son Austin and my daughter-in-law Sarah, and we're just kind of talking about what it means to face uncertainty or anxieties, things like that. And so I would just turn to you guys and say, just tell us what you're about to do as far as your careers. What's coming up this next? What's already started for you, right?
Yeah, I started this week as a special ed aide at MacArthur High School in Irving, and tried it virtually for a while until the school gets let back in person.
Okay, so you got all kinds of new challenges with a new place. Of course, it's kind of cool because you're back at your old high school, right?
Yeah, I'm doing that, and I'm looking to get certified to be a teacher. So it's kind of a new thing with the house coming along.
Good. And then Sarah, tell us what's up for you. First of all, the baby is 5 weeks old. But go ahead. What else?
Well, I am a preschool aide, so I'm on maternity leave now. But then I'll go back to school in September.
So that's a big change too. Yeah.
Bunch of kids.
Yeah. Opportunity.
Not wearing masks.
Yeah. Exactly. So there's lots of concerns about the masks and things that are going on.
Not knowing where they've been.
Not knowing where the kids have been, that sort of thing. So there's definitely some concern about anxiety, that sort of thing. So
kids that touch their faces.
Kids touch your faces and run up to you.
Like everything.
Right. So there's a lot of potential for the situations like that. So we go into life with anxieties that we're facing, and I just think about some of the scriptures that we see Jesus calling us to a sense of not being anxious but being at peace, and it's easier said than done, isn't it? It seems like it's really hard. What we're going to talk about this Sunday, and I'll wrap up in just a minute. But this Sunday in worship, we'll be studying this whole idea of facing anxiety more. I love what JP was saying about sometimes we think we have to do it all. And when we're thinking we're having to do it, we're trying to pretend, we're trying to live up to expectations that are unrealistic, and we're not realizing who's the one doing the work within us. And I think it's very important, especially for this young couple, as you guys are starting out to be blessed by knowing that it is Jesus doing the work through you. It's not about you guys getting everything done, getting the baby, everything taken care of, right on target, and then getting to your jobs, but it's about Jesus doing the work through you, and that changes everything. And the scripture for this Sunday is Matthew 14, starting in verse 22, and the focal point is going to be upon the idea of when Jesus was walking on the water. And as he was walking on the water, there was lots of wind and waves buffeting the boats, kind of like there may be lots of wind and waves that are rocking your boat right now. Wherever you are, whatever stage of life that you're in, you may be experiencing the wind and the waves. And Jesus is the one who can calm the wind and the waves. Jesus is the one who can literally walk on water. And so what we saw was Peter seeing Jesus and saying, "Lord, say the word, and I'll come your way." And Jesus said, "Come on." And Peter got out of the boat, which people say quite often was a great step of faith for him to get out of the boat. But the thing that I think was a bigger step of faith was a few seconds later as Peter started to sink. What Peter did there was the bigger statement of faith, I believe, because he held up his hand and said, "Lord, save me. Lord, save me." And when we're willing to do that, we're willing to hold up our hand and say, "Lord, save me," we're acknowledging, first of all, Jesus Christ is Lord. Secondly, we're acknowledging that he is the one who can save us. And finally, it's specifically to me. There's an old spiritual song that says, "Not my brother, not my mother, not my father, not my brother, not my sister, but it's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer. That's true for me. That's true for each one of you, I know. And as we prepare to go to God in prayer right now to wrap up our lesson, I just want you to know that you can hold up your hand and you can say, Lord, save me. It's great to see you. Let's go to God in prayer. Lord, we just thank you for the saving grace that you provide. We thank you for this group. We thank you for the opportunity to be together, even in a time like this on Thursday nights, to enjoy communion with you and with each other, even all across this area, all across this state, all across this country, even other parts of the world that are watching right now. And I thank you for that. I thank you for your grace. Lord, it's not about us. It's about you working through us. Lord, save me. Amen. God bless you. Hope to see you on Sunday morning. I'll be doing a special broadcast from the park at 10 o'clock with Reverend Edward Pearson, senior pastor of Mount Olive Baptist Church in Terrell, and look forward to having a time to look at facing anxiety. God bless you.